The Raiders Seahawks preseason game number 1 ended in a tie at 23. We'll talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly. That plus more on Friday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for August 8th, 2025.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. We definitely appreciate you if you're catching the show wherever you find your favorite podcast, or you're checking us out by way of the YouTube page. You know we appreciate both. Show continues to grow each and every day because of your consistent support and the great job that my man Ari's doing behind the scenes, making sure we look good and sound good each and every day. We shout him out. We appreciate him. He's on Twitter at Ari Produces. You can hit me up as well at your boy Q254. And we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line for you at 707-654-4693. We'll hear from you as we close out the show, your calls and texts, everything to have to do with the game that ended in a 23-23 tie. Preseason game number 1, and now the Raiders turn their attention to the 49ers for preseason game number 2 coming up next Saturday. Not this Saturday, but next Saturday. So we'll hear from you as we close out the show. Segment number 2, we'll take a look at the positives. Guys that I do believe stepped up and either made a name for themselves or did what we expected them to do. There were some positives to take away from a game that was relatively sloppy, especially in the first half. We'll take a look at the positive side of things in segment number 2. Here in segment number 1, just news and notes of the day, and it really just has to do with the overall feelings of the game. So we'll go ahead and jump right into it. Before we do that, though, I do want to apologize for getting this show up a little bit later than normal. Usually it's around 12:05 a.m. Pacific time. It's available, but it's been a very long day, run-on day. It started on Thursday, and it's continuing into Friday. So was at the Raiders facility all afternoon. Had to do my show, my radio show, Unnecessary Roughness, on Raider Nation Radio 920, which led right into the pregame show, myself and Lincoln Kennedy, and then boom, watched the game from the facility. Then we did the postgame show. So just bear with me. It's been a very long day and night and morning, whatever the case may be. Don't even really know what day it is or what time it is, but we're going to rock with it. We're going to get through it. And, of course, you know, we're going to talk about what we saw, 23-23 overall performance. It's funny, after watching the game and sitting there talking with Lincoln, and that was a great opportunity to sit there and just break down the game with him and watch it and kind of go through his eyes and see what he sees, and then also talk about what I see and kind of pick his brain and do a post-game show. Overall, it was preseason game number 1. It shows why, and he talks about it all the time, so important for preseason games for your starters to go out there and play. And the Raiders did have their starters play. Now, they didn't play very long. Right, the first team, Geno Smith, only got 1 drive in. Most of the guys on defense only got 1 drive in. Some guys got 2 or 3, drives out there as well. But for the most part, all the starters really only went for the first drive. Other guys, like some of the on the offensive line, like Jordan Meredith and JPJ, they were playing into the second half. But again, for the most part, you only saw the starters for the very first drive, and it was very sloppy for the Raiders from the jump. From the very beginning, they get the ball in really good field position as they had a nice kick return. Geno makes a nice play, throws the ball to Trey Tucker. It looks like they're cooking with grease. They're in a really good position. Then they have the next play is a drop by Thornton and then a drop by Jacoby Myers. And in between there was a penalty as well. Boom, they have to punt. And we never saw Geno Smith again. It's really unfortunate. Really would have loved to see how Geno Smith could have navigated down the field on that drive. But the Raiders, because of penalties and drop balls, really just shot themselves in the foot on that drive. And that basically was the whole first half. The whole first half was mistake after mistake after mistake. Defensive penalties, defensive holding from the defensive line. Jonah Laulu got called twice in a row for it, pretty much. There's just lining up off sides. Very, very sloppy. And again, I can go out to training camp every day. I can go to practice every day, and I can see this team play really well and execute really well offensively and defensively. But the truth of the matter is they're not tackling to the ground. They're not wrapping up. They don't have to worry about, keeping contained. And all those issues were massive, and they showed their ugly face especially in the first half of that game on Thursday night. There was just a lot of that. Well, this is the first time that, a lot of these guys have been tackling since January, or first time they even tackled in the NFL if you're a rookie, right? You saw guys take poor angles. And again, in training camp and practice, you don't have to worry about that. You're not tackling. All you have to do is go up and tag a guy, right? Okay, he's down. And that's what it looked like that some of these guys were trying to do, was actually try to tag guys instead of taking them to the ground. And so that's just, again, it's a good test. I'm glad that they're getting this out right now as opposed to week 1 against the New England Patriots, because if you do that when it matters, then you're going to be cooked. And again, this goes back to Lincoln's point of this is why guys need to play in the preseason. Can you imagine if they're just trying to get actual football activities in when it actually matters? And we'll see teams that do that. We'll see teams that won't get any action in until the first few weeks of the season, so they'll treat the first 4 weeks like, the preseason, and then they put themselves in a bad position. Matter of fact, the Raiders will probably play a team or two that are treating the first 4 weeks of the season like the preseason. And so everything that you saw them struggle with, especially in the first half, the sloppiness, right? The missed tackles, the offensive line struggling, and they really struggled, right? Ashton Genty ended up with -1 yards rushing because they just couldn't block for him. They were really struggling. But all those mistakes that you see them making, they have time to clean up. So the game was not pretty. The fact that Pete Carroll was pretty positive when he went into the locker room, hearing him on the broadcast saying, hey, we can't get out of our own way. If we get out of our own way, we'll be fine. And the good thing is they came back in the second half and they did really well. Now, the problem is, the biggest concern that I have was not the missed tackles, was not the sloppiness, was not the offensive line struggling. The biggest problem I have is the fact that the starters for the Seattle Seahawks, none of them played. It was known before the game started that they weren't going to play. So when the Raiders defense, the first team defense, was struggling to stop them and they couldn't keep contained and they let them run all over them and pick up 3rd and long, whatever the case may be, basically do whatever they wanted to do, that was very concerning to me. You want to see them be able to stop them, especially when it's not even their ones out there. So, again, it's a work in progress, right? We know that it's not created overnight. We know that this is a new staff in place, a lot of new players in place, a lot of young players in place, so they're going to have to grow up quick, fast, and in a hurry. I think you saw a handful of those guys do that in the second half. There were some things to like about what the Raiders did. There were some guys that stood out and played some pretty big roles, and you could see a glimpse of, okay, this is what this guy can do. This is what this guy can't do. But before the game, I on my radio show, I said, what do you want to learn from this game? Like, what do you want to learn? It's not what do you think the coaches are going to learn, but what do you want to learn? And a lot of it was just playing clean, sound, fundamental football. Well, I'll say that really did not happen for the most part. It wasn't very clean. It wasn't very sound, and the fundamentals were shaky at best, right? There was a lot of, hey, yeah, this is the first time these guys have played some real football. Even the mock game that they had on Saturday at Allegiant Stadium, right, they're not really tackling to the ground aggressively because it's their own guys. So they're going up against, new guys now and guys that aren't trying to protect them in the Seattle Seahawks for preseason game number 1. I think this week, going up against the 49ers in their in their joint practice and preseason game number 2 is really going to help see where this team is at. Clearly, they have a lot of work to do, but they did have some really good fight in the second half. We saw Aiden O'Connell play the majority of the game from the quarterback position. I didn't think he was very good, especially in the first half. He struggled through a couple interceptions, one that just can't be thrown, underthrow. Thornton should have had a touchdown, and Aiden O'Connell wasn't able to get it to him. And then another one where he stared down the receiver too long, and it ended up being a pick. And that's the thing about it. That's been Aiden's biggest issue so far since he's been in the league. A lot of times he stares down the wide receiver. So that's something that he's got to do better with. Now, to his credit, he settled down in the very first drive that he got the ball in the second half. In that third quarter, he takes him right down the field and gets into the end zone. Right? I thought he did really well. I thought that was the best drive of the game for Aiden O'Connell, was that first drive that he had the ball in the third quarter and was able to make a lot of really good decisions. That was a positive drive. I want to say, did he score a touchdown on that? Yeah, I want to say, was that the one? Yeah, he threw it to Dylan Lobby, and Lobby got into the end zone. And then Cam Miller came in later and threw the ball to Action Jackson, a deep one to Action Jackson, and got him into the end zone. So, yeah, those were positives. Cam Miller, I thought we were going to see a lot more of him. We saw a little bit of him, like 8 or 9 minutes or so, in the fourth quarter. And that's when he came into the game. He wasn't in there the whole time, but I thought he did some good things, right? We'll talk about him more coming up in segment number 2. He's still a work in progress as a 6th-round pick. He's still trying to learn the speed of the game, but for the most part, I thought he did a pretty good job as well. And you want to see your backup quarterback in Aiden O'Connell, you want to see him mature and get a little bit better. But, the game ends up in a tie. The Raiders ultimately had a chance to win it at the end, but Cash Money Carlson got his very long, I think, 55-yard field goal attempt blocked. And, that was the second kick that he had missed in the game. The other one, they tried to rush on him onto the field right before halftime and get a kickoff, and it didn't happen. Bad execution, trying to go too fast, and he really never had a chance on that one. But he did look like he was in midseason range with a couple other field goals that he had in the game, and then he just ultimately got that last one blocked and just thought, okay, it's going to be the Raiders that are going to find a way to win this one at the end with a field goal. But they don't. They end up tying 23-23. So kind of an overall summary of the game. There was some good, a lot of bad, and even some ugly. But let's talk about the good. Let's talk about the guys who stepped up that I thought played a pretty good role and someone to get excited about for this team moving forward. And this was only preseason game number 1. We'll do that in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about a couple great sponsors here on the show, and the first one is Monarch Money. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. And I'll tell you, man, you'll be so surprised when you notice how, when you're tracking your spending, oh man, how much money that you're actually spending, what you're doing on subscriptions, what you're doing on rideshare, what you're doing on takeout. That's what always gets me. Hey, out to eat. Oh man, I spent that. Wow, it's really eye-opening. So right now, take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use promo code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Promo code is LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. I also want to let you know that this episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. It's the best time of year. NFL kickoff is almost here, and that means fantasy football season is back in full swing. And this year, Yahoo Fantasy is turning things up with a fantasy football experience like never before. So many shows are playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too. Whether you're a first-timer or a veteran making your millionth league. And for years, they've been doing this. They've got great updates, and they're rolling out some really great features this month. They're really, really wild. Matter of fact, to celebrate 28 years of fantasy football greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days throughout August. To kick it off, they just dropped Yahoo Fantasy's Guillotine Leagues. It's a great new way to play fantasy football on Yahoo, where the lowest scoring team gets eliminated each week until there's one team left standing. With the season around the corner, now's the time to get your league together and give this new mode a try. If you're into the classics, you can still play in head-to-head private leagues or join a public league. Stay tuned for more great announcements and start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Wanted to show a little bit of love to some guys that I thought played really well in preseason game number 1. Look, if the Raiders had gone out and won 34-0, I wasn't going to get too high on that because it's a preseason game. If they were to get blown out, 34-0, I wasn't going to get too low because it's still a preseason game. They end up tying 23-23. We know the first half was very sloppy. Second half, they played a lot better. There's a lot of work to be done. There's no doubt about that. That's with the offensive line. That's with Chip Kelly and his play calling. That's with the running game. That's with the quarterback play. That's with the defense. That's with the defensive line. That's with the secondary. Like, everyone has a lot of work that they still have to do to get this thing to be a well-oiled machine by the time they get ready to head to New England and take on the Patriots week 1 and get ready for the onslaught that is 17 games in 18 weeks in the 2025 season. But I do want to show some love to some guys that I thought did pretty well and really caught my attention. And look, there was a handful of guys, especially in the second half, that I thought, okay, they did some really good things. But, man, let's go back to the first half. Jamal Adams, right? He's a guy that the Raiders signed right before training camp got started. We didn't really know what kind of role he was going to play. John Spytek said that they had a special package for him. He's been working out and practicing with the linebackers, and he looked good, right? As the weak side linebacker, he looked good on Thursday night. 3 total tackles. He didn't get credited with a TFL. I thought he should have had a TFL, but he showed speed. He showed tackling ability and just the leadership. The guy was cheering his team on the sidelines. Like, there was a lot of positivity from the leadership and the play of Jamal Adams. If you get that guy to the beginning of the season, make sure he gets to the starting blocks. He's healthy, ready to go. He's going to be an absolute asset in this Patrick Graham-led defense. And his leadership is basically second to none. right? He's always been a really good leader. I've always called him an alpha dog, and the last couple of years he's been really banged up. Matter of fact, last year he only played in 5 games with 2 different teams, right? I mean, that's all he played. And out of 17 games, and he had 2 different teams that he was working for, he only played a total of 5 games. So he's now healthy. He's looking good, and I just think that he's the ultimate chess piece for Patrick Graham in this defense. And clearly they're going to need it, right? The defense is going to have to be a lot better than what we saw on Thursday night. So hat off to Jamal Adams. When I speak about hats off, how about Thomas Booker IV? I know there's a lot of questions. Obviously, Monday is still kind of a sore spot. Trading Jacorian Bennett to the Philadelphia Eagles for Thomas Booker IV. A lot of people said, this guy, what has he done? Right? This guy's on his 3rd team. He's not anybody. He's not worth the salt. And everyone that, I talked to said, I think you're going to like this guy, Q. The guy could play. He's fast. Pete Carroll said that they've been watching him for a while. They've got some personnel guys in their front office that come from Philadelphia, so they know what Booker can do. I didn't think Booker was going to play in the game, right? I had just basically said on Thursday's show what his jersey number was, 47. So it was a shock to me when I saw 47 on the field. I was, wait, hold on, what? We're going to see Booker? And we saw him. Right? He only had 1 tackle, but you saw him pop a few times in the game, right? And the fact that he just arrived and was already playing, that's definitely a positive. He has exactly what Pete Carroll said. He's fast. He's quick, right? What I was told by my guy, Mike Gill, the dude is in the backfield quite a bit. In a limited amount of snaps, he's in the backfield quite a bit, right? And so, again, something I'm excited to see, can he be part of that defensive tackle rotation? Can he be a guy that's part of the crew that runs with Adam Butler, Jonah Laulu, right, and others? Can he be a part of that? I think he can, right? He showed a little glimpse. And, again, this guy just arrived. I mean, basically, he's a guy who got to the locker room and looked for whatever jersey fit. Hey, I just need a jersey. Is there anyone? Is there, you know what I mean? And we've all been there, right? When we played on the team and we didn't really have a jersey. Hey, man, here, just put this on. And you're like, this number? Huh? 47? Right? Thomas Booker will probably not be 47 once the cut downs happen. I'm sure that's not going to be his number when it's all said and done. But I thought he stepped up and played well and at least let it be known that he was there. And, again, a guy that the guys that are in the front office from Philadelphia already know what he could bring to the table. Pete Carroll was happy to get him. And obviously defensive tackle is an area of need. They need to have as many guys in that room as possible. So hats off to Thomas Booker IV. I thought he did well. Also, Isaiah Palamau, I should go back to him. He was on the first drive. He actually saved that first drive. Drew Lock was going right down the field. And, again, that's a concern because Sam Darnold's the starting quarterback, but Drew Lock got a lot of burn. Matter of fact, he played the whole first half, and he did really well. But on that very first drive, Drew Lock threw a ball that he probably should have thrown towards the pylon. Instead, he threw it, and it was a little bit behind his receiver, and Isaiah undercut it and intercepted the ball. And what I liked about that was not the fact that he just intercepted that one, is the fact that he was looking for the ball. Right? That was a positive. Again, you're just looking for small things when, you're watching preseason games. Again, you're not going to win the Super Bowl in one preseason game. But what I've seen from Isaiah, going back to last year when he got thrown into action because Marcus Epps went down with a torn ACL, he was a thumper. He was the guy that hit guys and dislodged the ball. And you saw him get more comfortable with that as the season went along, to the point where he even won Defensive Player of the Week one time, right? And so he did that, but he wasn't really getting any play on the ball. Well, not too long ago in training camp, he undercut a pass that was intended for Dante Thornton Jr. and intercepted it. And then you see the same thing on Thursday in the preseason game. Undercuts a ball, boom, intercepts it, right? He's the last line of defense right there. So to see him getting more comfortable attacking the ball, that's a positive. Even later in the game, you saw Caillou Blue-Kelly, who has had some rough days at training camp. You've seen him anticipate where the ball was going and make a break on it. As soon as Isaiah intercepted that ball, I turned to Lincoln and said, this team will not have only 10 interceptions this year. Now, I don't know how many they're going to have, but I don't anticipate them having only 10 interceptions and only 13 turnovers they create like they did a year ago. That just can't happen, especially for a team who's still trying to get into, this offense and really learn the ins and outs of the offense and what players can do what. They definitely definitely need to create some turnovers and have some short fields to give their offense an even better chance. I still think this offense is going to be really good. Obviously, they were going to be very vanilla. They weren't going to just sit there and go all through Chip Kelly's whole playbook and throw some trick plays out there and put a whole lot of really good plays on film. They're not going to do that. They're not going to do that in the preseason at all. But they're going to still be a work in progress, but they have a chance to be good. But the defense is going to have to step up and make some plays. Isaiah made a play, and I really liked what he did. I mentioned Cam Miller, the 6th-round pick. He's a guy that a lot of people have asked, what do you think about him? What do you think about him? Can he be the number 2? I don't want to start that. I don't want to go there. There were some people inside the facility when me and Lincoln were going back to do the post-game show, some people that work behind the scenes that thought, hey, what'd you think about the game, Q? I was like, pretty sloppy. The Raiders found a way to tie the game, so that's cool. It's preseason game number 1. And someone said, I think that Cam Miller is the number 2 quarterback. And I was like, I'm not going to go there. He was 6 for 7, 76 yards and a touchdown. He did good for the time that he was in there. But remember, right, the starters didn't even play in the first half. So by the time Cam Miller got into the game late in the fourth quarter, he was really going up against 3s and 4s. So you got to kind of take that with a grain of salt. This week against San Francisco at joint practice, it'll be interesting to see what Cam Miller does. And obviously, it'll be very interesting to see what he does on Saturday, preseason game number 2, and then obviously closing things out in the preseason against Arizona Cardinals week 3. But all in all, for his first taste of NFL action, I thought Cam Miller did a pretty good job. Vinny Bonsignore, Adam Hill, and others were there in Seattle covering the game, and so he sent me a few minutes of back and forth with Cam Miller in the Raiders locker room. Check it out.
I feel like there's getting chances not only to be in a game, but a real competitive game down the stretch, make some plays.
That's what I'm used to. I'm used to playing in games like that, but not used to it at that stage and level. I was just excited to compete, very excited for the opportunity. I'm glad that I was able to get a few drives and get some momentum rolling. I was just super blessed to be out there.
Did it feel like you thought it would feel?
I thought it would feel a little bit bigger, a little bit more stressed out, but I felt like the coaches did a great job of putting me in at the right time in the game with guys that I'm comfortable playing with. So everything felt a lot better than what I expected.
Did you know what the plan was, that you were going to get the fourth quarter, or was that kind of left open at all? And were you mentally preparing there on the sideline?
I was just preparing the entire game just in case something happened. We didn't really have a plan of when I was going to go in. I just knew that I was going to get at least a drive. So always just be ready. And, I was excited.
For your progress, being that it was on the road, you had to go silent a lot, throughout. How much is that good for your growth process?
I think it's awesome for my growth. I had never used silent in college. That was the first time we used clap when it got loud, but I don't think that would have worked here in Seattle. And now getting to understand some of these silent cadences has been awesome for my knowledge and just understanding of the game of football. But Gino and Aiden have done a great job of taking me under their wing and just helping me and showing me and teaching me everything I need to know.
How much does that mean to you when the veteran on the team is over there kind of coaching you up? And
I'm extremely blessed because I don't think that happens everywhere. And so to have 2 veterans that I think respect me and I think they're both great people and they go out of their way to help. A younger guy who's never played in a game before, I think speaks a lot to their character. Very fortunate to have those 2 in the room.
Cam Miller in the Raiders locker room following the game, and very confident dude. I love the fact that Gino went up to him on the last drive when he was trying to win the game and really got in his ear and was trying to coach him up and was showing his leadership. You want to talk about a hell of a player. Gino is showing that not only is he a hell of a player as far as just his action, what he can do, but also his leadership. Right, at the most important position, the quarterback spot, to be cheering his guy on as much as he was, to be in his ear, trying to help him out as much as he was. And I got to give that to Aiden O'Connell as well. Even though he didn't have a great game, he still was trying to help coach up his guy. He wasn't rooting against him and saying, oh, man, I hope this guy struggles so people don't start talking about him as the number 2 as opposed to me. He wasn't doing that. I've always said Aiden O'Connell is a pro's pro. He was that. He just didn't have a very good game. And so he's going to have to work on that. But I thought Cam Miller did a good job. And, we'll see how he continues to evolve. The good thing is that he doesn't have to be the guy right now. Gino's the guy. Aiden is the number 2 guy, and Cam Miller is the guy that they can hold on to, keep him on the roster if they want to. I don't see them trying to stash him on practice squad, any of that. I think he's going to be better than that, and I think that they like him a lot more than that. So got to tip the cap to Cam Miller. I thought he did a really good job. A couple other guys, Dylan Lobby, thought he did well for what he did. He's really more of a special teams guy. That's how he's going to make the team, but you saw him running hard in the second half. Ian Thomas, I talked about him. Don't sleep on him, right? He had a big catch early in the game. Ian Thomas is a heck of a tight end. That tight end room is very, very talented. Thought Tonka Hemingway did a good job. Tyree Wilson, I thought, did a good job. There was a handful of guys that stepped up, and you said, okay, I get it. But, then you saw guys like J.T. Woods, who I've been talking about. Don't sleep on him. He showed that he was a converted safety. He showed that he still needs to learn the cornerback position, right? Took a couple bad angles, lost contains, really needs to make sure that he stays disciplined with that. Because as much as he can be a guy that can attack the ball and run with the wide receiver, there's more to the position than just playing the ball and making sure the receiver don't catch the ball or you going for interceptions, right? You got to be able to come up and run support. And when he went up and run support, he just kind of olayed at the ball carrier and missed them badly. Can't do that. Right. And Darian Porter, long, rookie out of Iowa State, 3rd-round pick guy that I've been very high on. He took some bad angles as well. So it's all a growing process, right? It's not something that is going to be great overnight, but it kind of is if you want to get humbled a little bit, you think that you're having a lot of success in training camp. You want to get humbled a little bit, get your first taste of NFL action and realize like, oh man, everybody's fast. Oh man, I still have a lot of work to do. Clearly, the Raiders do have a lot of work to do on both sides of the ball. But Jamal Adams, Thomas Booker IV, Cam Miller, Isaiah Palomau, all guys that I thought did really good in preseason game number 1. Coming up in segment number 3, what is on your mind? What did you think about the 23-23, the tie between the Raiders and the Seahawks, preseason game number 1? We'll hear from you next as we close out the show on Friday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about another great sponsor here on the show, and that is 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. Time to fuel up and turn it up with 5-Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape ginger and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. So whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Or maybe if you're just doing radio shows and podcasts all day long. Let's be honest, some days on the course or off it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. And, look, I'm not very good at golf, but it gets hot out there on the golf course sometimes. That's why you got to get out there early in the morning. Sometimes you need that extra boost to get you through all 18 holes, and especially with my laughter, because that's all I'm doing at my game. My golf game is so bad, I'm laughing so hard that it takes some energy right out of me. Golf is all about good times with good people, and that's all I'm about. Good times, good people when it comes to golf. And, of course, good flavors. The grape ginger lime flavor gives you the best parts of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the beverage cart. If you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that's the number 5hourenergy.com, you can use the promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your order. The offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. So whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion flavored 5-Hour Energy shots today. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts are off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Went a little long in the first 2 segments. Shocking. So we'll get to your calls and texts just to get a couple of them in to close out the show. We'll start things off with Derek from the 203, calling to give his thoughts on what he saw from the game on the positive side of things. Here's Derek.
Hey, Q. It's Darren calling from the 203. After the 23-23 tie against the Seahawks, and honestly, with how it was at half, I'm okay with it. I'm going to try and stick to the positive. There's definitely some negative to talk about. I'm sure other people will call in with it, and it will be covered because you do a good job covering things. But the number 4, is it Shedrick Jackson? Sounds like that's what they're saying in the booth. Where'd that kid come from? Talk about guys we weren't expecting to have an impact. I know it's just preseason. It was mostly in the second half. But he looked heads up. Knew where to be. Knew how to. Was very on top of getting the ball back to the ref quickly in that last couple minutes there. last couple of minutes there. So that was a nice surprise. It's also nice to see Dylan Lobby move with the ball in his hands. That was also good. I think Booker looked okay, and so did some of the other interior defensive linemen at times, like the sack on Milrow late. Obviously, we're talking third stringers and third stringers there, so. But nonetheless, looked good. And then I liked what I saw from Thornton. You know, he had that drop. I think it was the first target he had the drop, but it was a tough catch anyway. And then throw where O'Connell underthrew him. I think if Ayers into that ball, I think Gino could probably make the throw. Ayers underneath that ball, and that's 6 for Thornton. We'd like to see more of the running game, but not overreacting to it. So overall, you were able to come back and tie it up after being down 16-3. I'll take it. So, it's not just win pretty, it's just win big. And we didn't win, but they tied. So, next best thing, I suppose. Anyways, that's all. Just wanted to share that. Go Raiders.
Big Derek, thanks for the call. Appreciate you. And, yeah, of course, there's absolutely some positives to take away, including the fact the Raiders didn't fold after having an awful start to the game, right? I mean, listening to the halftime interview with Pete Carroll, the way he went into the locker room, and he was very positive about himself. And that's just kind of how he carries himself. So he went into the locker room. I'm sure he wasn't very happy with the way that they played, but he also said there's still a lot of football. We got a lot of football to play, and, yeah, we gave them that first half. Now we're going to come back and play a lot better. And to their credit, they did. They played a lot better in the second half. They made some plays. They got to the quarterback. They didn't have very much pressure at all throughout the course of the game until the end. That's obviously something that they have to do and do better. But then again, we only saw Max Crosby for a couple minutes, right? But it's a whole thing. Kuntz, Tyree, Adam Butler, right? Max, obviously, right? All these guys are going to have to step up and get some pressure on the quarterback. These guys can't sit there and have all day to throw the ball around the yard. So, there was definitely positives to take away. It wasn't all terrible. It just wasn't the way that, especially to start the game, that I was expecting to see. I was expecting to see the Raiders come out and play and be a little bit more competitive than they were. But thanks so much for the call. Definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Raider Adam in SoCal. It says, hey, Q, Raider Adam out of SoCal here. I'll let you know, I do not love how our secondary and defense overall look. There was a play in the first half that the Seahawks drew up an ISO play for the outside receiver, and who I believe was DK Richardson. DK Richardson, and that kind of killed me. They didn't complete it, but the fact that they felt comfortable enough to draw a play up to do that does not make me feel good, especially considering that that was their second team. I looked at the Raiders' schedule and forecasted 10 wins. After that performance, I'm reshaping my views a bit. Looks more like 6 wins to me. Hopefully I'm wrong. Go Raiders. That's Raider Adam in SoCal. The one thing I would do and encourage you is not to overreact. Not one way too high, not one way too low. Like if the Raiders come out on Saturday next week and blow out the 49ers, don't be like, man, yep, 10 wins, no doubt. That's who they're going to be. Like you just don't know how to judge preseason games. There's been times in the past going way back that the Raiders went 4-0 in the preseason, or even with Josh McDaniels went 3-1 and they had a terrible season. Right? There's times that you see teams go 0-for and then they have a really great season. So, I mean, you can't really judge everything. You could take away some, right? Small little things here, technique, contain, right? I mean, coverage. How do these guys cover? And we already said the secondary is young, so they're going to have to develop, but that's the thing about it, and that's why preseason is so necessary. For everyone that says, oh, preseason's stupid, there's no reason for them to be out there, what we saw, especially in the first half of that game, is exactly why they have preseason games. So thanks so much for the text. Definitely appreciate you. Up next, got a call from Vader Raider in the 303. He's called to talk about the first half of the game, the offensive line in particular. Then he talks about the struggle the Raiders had with stopping the run, a really leaky defense that they had. Here he is, Vader Raider in the 303.
Q, Raider Nation, it's your boy Vader Raider. Thanks again to you and Ari for everything you do. I'm trying not to make this too long. Yeah, so impressions of the first half of this game against the Seahawks. It's not good. It's not good. I won't overreact to a preseason game, but offensive line did not look good. No running lanes for Ashton Genty. I don't know what's going on with the offensive line, but now it looks like there's a problem because nobody was doing their job, and it just didn't look good. I mean, I don't know, Q. I was befuddled by this first half. I even commented on Twitter. I was like, the offensive line in the third quarter, the starting offensive line is still out there. JPJ is still out there. I'm kind of confused about that, but I guess if you still need to work, you still need to work. What is it about? We couldn't stop the run at all. We let one of their rookie running backs run all over us. I mean, couldn't contain to the outside. Like they couldn't contain anything on the inside. Giving up big plays on third downs. I mean, I've seen this movie. I've seen this movie a lot of times, and I don't know. It needs to get cleaned up because there was a lot to not be impressed with. There's a lot to not be excited about. Gino wasn't in long enough to make an evaluation. Aiden O'Connell. If anybody out there wants to say there's a quarterback controversy, you can go ahead and put that back in your pocket because there is no quarterback controversy. Aiden O'Connell is a backup, and he proved that tonight by doing, squat against, he's throwing the ball around a lot, but the 2 picks, I mean, we're not even going there with the 2 picks. Just a real frustrating night. Thornton looked okay. I mean, from what I saw, but again, no running lanes for Ashton. Nothing really going on at all in the first half, at all. And the field goal unit running out there with time expiring in the first half. What was that? I mean, come on. There was a lot to not be very excited about, but hopefully, hey, it's the first preseason game. The sky is not falling. They've got 2 more to, and they've got plenty of time before the season starts to clean things up. But from what I saw, I was just not really impressed. Anyway, have a great weekend. Vader Raider out.
Vader Raider, thanks for the call. Definitely appreciate you. It's good to hear from you. And yeah, I mean, there's plenty of areas that this team needs to improve, right? And the fact that it was exposed and shown in preseason game number 1 could end up being a positive. Now they know, okay, they're going to go back, look at the film. They're going to break it down, say, all right, this is what you did. This is what you can't do, right? Just like Pete Carroll always says, it's okay to make a mistake. Just make a mistake, go 100 miles an hour while you're making the mistake, but then also have the ability to correct it. So now they go back, they see what they did wrong, and they have to correct it, right? Lack of contain, that's just a discipline thing. You have to know that you have to keep contained. If you don't, they're going to run outside all day long. It's that simple, right? And they did, right? So that's a work in progress. Offensive line, you want to talk about a work in progress? That's really a work in progress. They weren't opening up any holes. There was one carry that Ashton Genty had where he lost 4 yards, where he was already getting into his jump cut by the time he got the ball in his hands. He got the ball, and then, boom, he was already trying to jump. It gave me flashbacks to Josh Jacobs when he didn't have anywhere to run. And he's like, well, I'm already trying to make a guy miss as soon as I get the ball in my hands. That's what Genty did, right? He had, 3 carries or 4 carries for minus 1 yards? Like, that's not going to get it done. Now, obviously, they were able to run a little bit later in the game, second half in particular. They were able to start getting the run game going, but that offensive line's got to come together. I really wish they had all played together a little bit longer. I know Meredith and JPJ played a little bit longer, but I would have liked to see Miller out there longer. I would have liked to see Glaze out there longer. I'd have liked to see Dylan Parham out there a bit longer, only because that is the one position that has to understand what each other is doing. They have to be all on the same page. There are no other answers. Like, you can't be the starting center and go train by yourself, right? You just can't. I mean, you can train by yourself, but you also have to be working with your right guard. You have to be working with your left guard. You have to know that your tackles are sound. Like, that's the thing. These guys can't do it on their own and just think that they're going to be great. They have to do it together. That's the one position group that they all have to be a band of brothers. So I wish they had played a little bit longer, but I'm sure we'll see more this week against San Francisco. And honestly, to see this joint practice that they have on Thursday on the 14th, that's going to be a big deal because, man, the 49ers are not just going to try to, go through practice, lollygag through it and think that, everything will be fine. We're just trying to get to the regular season. No, they're going to try to give it to the Raiders. So they'll be able to have a good test of what they are or who they are. So thanks so much for the call. I do appreciate you. We'll close things out with a text from Chase out of the Valley of the Grass. He says, Q, is Chase out of the Valley of the Grass? I'm texting in. Man, I've been a huge fan of yours for years. Listening to the podcast, riding through all the ups and downs with you. been a big part of my Raider fandom, and I can't tell you how much that means to me. I've always wanted to text in, but tonight just feels like the right night to be a new booty. Just finished watching the Raiders' first preseason game. There's something different about this squad. They look serious, not just for entertainment purposes only. Pete Carroll had me questioning him only till the end, to end up with the ball and a chance to win. Jamal Adams looks like he belongs at linebacker, and that Dylan Lobby kid, he needs a spot on the 53. Appreciate all that you do, Q. And can we laugh for a second at the knucklehead on unnecessary roughness, wasting Raider Nation's time? You're a good dude, Q. You don't need to tell you that. You don't need me to tell you that. Keep being you, Raider Nation for life. That's Chase out of the Valley of the Grass. Thanks so much for the text. Definitely appreciate you. Thanks for the compliments as well. And yeah, I mean, they still are operating like a serious organization. They're definitely not operating like a entertainment purposes only or a very unserious organization. They just got a lot of work to do, right? Lobby, like you said, started doing really well, running the ball in the second half. I think that his best way to make that 53-man roster is by way of special teams. You know, him being the best return man he can be, kick and punt return, and also being a gunner, right? That's the way, because the running back room is pretty deep. You got Genty, you got Zamir, you got Sincere, and you got Raheem Mostert. And I'm not saying it's in that order, but you got all those guys in there. So it's going to be hard to crack that lineup as far as the running back goes. But special teams, no doubt. Jamal Adams, I co-sign that 100%. He looked really good in the limited time that he was out there. Looked really good. He just has to stay healthy. That's going to be his biggest thing. He could be a nice chess piece. Jeremy Chin could be a nice chess piece. Guys like Devin White could be a nice chess piece for this Patrick Graham-led defense. They just got to all be on the same page. They just all got to be able to communicate. So that's all we got time for on today's show. Again, I apologize for getting the show out so late, but it's really the earliest that I could possibly get it out. I've been, doing all these shows from the Raiders facility, pregame show, postgame show, and that bad boy ran late. So I got that thing hammered out and knocked out as quickly as possible, but it's not the normal time, and I do apologize for that. So Raider Nation, have a fantastic weekend. Of course, we'll be back on Monday. We'll be ready to go, rock and roll, getting ready for week 2 in the preseason, and the San Francisco 49ers coming to Allegiant Stadium, coming to the Intermountain Health Performance Center for joint practice on Thursday. So looking forward to that, and looking forward to get one step closer to the start of the regular season. So until Monday, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.